Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Goodman, Director of Marketing and Development for the YMCA of Northwest Louisiana. And we're here at 318 Latino Studios for Shreveport-Bossier, my city, my community, my home. And this has been a discussion I've been wanting to have a long, long time. Our very special guest is Councilwoman Tabatha Taylor.
Hi.
Great to have you.
Yeah, it's so good to be here.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
When I know you don't have much time and you made it. And as I said before we started, I'm not Dominique Ben, but I'm going to do my best.
I'm not her either. I promise you. She's good, though.
All right. Well, we're going to hop in. So for more than 25 years, you've been advocating for autism awareness.
Yes.
Your adult son, Dominique, is nonverbal and was diagnosed with autism at age 2.
Correct.
Your advocacy efforts have led to so much great change. Talk to me about where autism resources and awareness were when you first started this work 25 plus years ago, and some of where they are today.
There were none when I started this journey. Probably the most devastating thing for me was that my son developed normally. He, all of his milestones, he talked to me, and then one day all of that started going away. The last words that he said to me were "lights, mama," and that was around Christmas time. And I didn't know what was going on. And so I took him to the doctor. They weren't really sure. And so I just happened to run across something that talked about autism. And so I had taken him in to get an evaluation, and that is when I received the diagnosis. And the diagnosis was very grim. And I want to tell you that I grieved internally, at that point, because I didn't know what to do. And when I was reading about autism, typically what you were thinking about at that time was Rain Man, but my son did exhibit those characteristics. After going through this particular mourning period, what I did is just pulled up my bootstraps and just got in and started reading and researching and advocating and doing everything that I could. I learned that there wasn't insurance that did not cover autism. There were very limited resources. And so one day, this mother walked into my best friend's office. And she was talking about her son who had autism. And she talked about this speech therapist that was in Bossier City. And so I happened to meet Kimberly Wardell. And we met, and she was charging like $50 a week for therapy, where therapy was costing parents probably like $30,000 because insurance wasn't covering it. And we met every week for my son. And then I heard him say my name. And that's few and far between, but I was so very excited. But I knew that some things needed to change at the state level. And so my good friend, Patrick Williams, was a representative, and he picked up my fight. And that was my introduction of going down to the legislature, fighting for parents where they didn't have to go through what I went through. And later on, there was Representative Fall that actually fought for individuals with autism to have insurance. And in that process of going in and doing that, what happened is that autism became a qualifying condition for insurance, and Louisiana was like the first state to be able to do that. And so they came from advocacy for parents, advocacy for, individuals taking a very personal part of their life, a very private part of their life, and making it public. But I knew that as a mother, I needed to have resources for my son, and that there were going to be many other parents that were just like me. So my best friend, Elise Latier and Ron Latier, and all of them became very good advocates for me during that particular time with Representative Williams. And so we fought until now. You have insurance, you have options, for your children. I also lobbied for medicinal marijuana for parents for epilepsy as well as autism with Moms Here with Monica Stampley. And that was a unique experience within itself when we all went down and John Bel Edwards, signed that piece of legislation. I worked closely with that with Representative Cedric Glover at that time. So I always tell people that you have to love enough to care. And you have to care more than yourself, because if you're going through it, I promise you, somebody else is going through it. And all they need is that little spark of hope. Now, when parents call me as it relates to their children with autism, I can tell them about so many resources that they have versus when my son was diagnosed, there were limited, zero.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Congratulations, but that's not even the right word. Mm-hmm. Great work.
I understand exactly what my son will be 30 years old this year.
Amazing.
Yes. So it's a journey that, we refer to him as the big cheese. And even though my son is nonverbal, his fight has been verbal while using my voice.
Love that. All right. Well, you grew up in the Cooper Road area and now represent that district, District A, as its city councilwoman. Mm-hmm. I've heard you talk about why your memories of going to pay the water bill with your grandmother was important. Would you mind sharing a little of that story?
The Cooper Road, of course, when I was growing up, was not annexed to the city of Shreveport. So we were a community.
You say that of course to me, but also I would say a lot of people that isn't that known to a lot of people.
Yes, it was not a part of the city of Shreveport. We were the unincorporated area, and it was actually one of the largest African American districts in the United States, and adjacent to Harlem, New York.
And not annexed, I think, until 1978. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Not everyone wanted to be annexed to the city of Shreveport, but there came down Department of Justice legislation. So in all the ways, the Cooper Road really saved the city of Shreveport a lot. And so at many times I felt that the Cooper Road hasn't always had their due diligence for what they need. We develop our own infrastructure, our own roads, our own sewer system, and I always got excited because we had the opportunity to go pay the water bill. Now, it wasn't a big deal to everybody else, but it was just this little house that you would go and you would pay, that you would go to on MLK. But then you would see everybody. You got a chance to see everybody in Hayden. So it was like an exciting trip for us. My grandmother remained on the Cooper Road until she passed last year. My grandmother was 94 years old. My grandmother donated land to the church. So they named the church after her, and Cooper Road was that unique community. Growing up with, chickens and cows and everything going up and down the street was something that was very unique. And I had to remember in coming to the council, when somebody would come, and talk about chickens and cows, I was like, oh, that's not normal in the city. But it was normal for me, growing up. And so as I look at the community now and have seen the changes that we have, I want to bring that foundation of family back there where the resources are available. So I fight really hard for that area along with Allendale, because my dad was from Allendale, because I think a community dies when it does not have the necessary resources, of what's needed. And so you want to change that. I have very fond memories growing up on the Cooper Road, and there are still a number of great residents that reside in those areas. And so I want to bring that back.
And just, you kind of said this, but just to clarify so Cooper Road, MLK area had its own water system, had its own infrastructure that its residents and its community built themselves because they were not annexed
Right.
to the city. They were a separate entity.
Correct.
All right. And, well, you kind of went here a little bit, but we're going to go back there. You're one of the most positive, forward-looking leaders we have in our community, in my opinion.
Oh my God.
And I've always been struck by how much
honored.
pride the people I've met from Cooper Road seem to have. So my question for you is, talk a little about the Cooper Road / MLK area. How is it similar to the way it was when you were growing up there, and how is it different today from what it was when you were younger and growing up there?
The comparisons are you still can reside there and enter Head Start and go to college without leaving the area. Some of the differences that we have right now, one of the main things for me is that we don't have a grocery store that we did when I was growing up.
What'd you have growing up? What was it?
We had Lomart, and that was also a Piggly Wiggly on the Cooper Road. You don't have some of those conveniences that's needed in a neighborhood of over 10,000 plus people, and it has been quite challenging for me when I'm fighting in that area and just looking at market analysis and all of these different things of, okay, why I can't have this or why I can't do that. And I just don't agree with that argument. So I continue to push until, I get exactly what I'm looking for the community. The other appreciation that I have that is still the same is the love and the unity for community. And I think more so, we grew up and then we had our own lives, and so we moved out the area. So it's actually a rebirthing of those that want to come back to the area, and then going in and building that area and knowing what it was and what it could be.
And it's still, if I'm not mistaken, one of the larger African American communities in the entire country.
Yes,
is that correct?
it's still correct.
Maybe one of the top 10.
Yes. I think it's in the top 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's in the top 3.
It's amazing.
It really is. It really is. It's so much land and so much where you can see. I visualize its own little Mecca, in a sense. And when I say that, certain things that I want in the area that you can find anywhere else. I want there to be a coffee shop. I want you to be able to sit down and do that. What we're doing now is that we are redoing streets, and I'm happy about that. We're redoing the park, the swimming pool. It's going to have a whole new water park there. We're redoing the drainage, in University Park, repave the street, in front of Green Oaks High School. So we're moving towards those things. But the other thing that we lack is housing. And I mean affordable housing where people can buy their homes. And that's another thing that, quote unquote, is right here on the cusp of developers looking at that land and wanting to build homes. Because, again, I don't think God is really creating any more new land. And you've built so much out south, you got to have something in the north.
I agree. And I encourage, I've done events at Southern. I've had Chancellor Gant here. There's just something special in that part of our community that is palpable, and I have a relationship with Miss Irma Rogers.
Yes.
And you can just feel it. And there's a sense of pride that is almost stronger there than maybe any area in our entire city.
Yes. And Dr. Gant is a Cooper Roadian. She graduated from Green Oaks High School. We were actually at Southern today with encouraging students to attend Southern University at Shreveport. And so that campus, you go to any campus, and around there you have coffee shop, gift shop, whatever the case may be, eateries. I want the same thing for Southern at Shreveport. I want that around there, because what community that you have a college and there's not anything around. You go by sitting areas of Wendy's down the street or Whataburger. I'm telling you, it needs to happen there as well.
I agree. All right, we're gonna we're going to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So you see a lot. You're in lots of rooms, lots of discussions. Mm-hmm. My next question is just as you look out at our greater community, mm-hmm. just what are talk to me about some of the things that keep you up at night or that concern you the most.
One of the things that really concern me that I'm happy to see trending downward was the public safety. No one wants to reside in a city where they don't feel safe. And so we all know public safety is the number one priority of government. And I would tell people all the time when they would call about gunfire, that does not exempt me. I drive down the same streets as you do. I see what you see on television or read what you have on social media. So it's very important to me, being on the council, that we provided our police department as well as our fire department with the resources that they needed. And so we spent quite a bit of money investing in technology. We knew that we were short officers, and so the next best thing was technology. I traveled to New Orleans and Baton Rouge and observed their real-time crime center to see how they would track that particular activity under Mayor Perkins. And so what we're seeing now with the investments that we made is that we're seeing the numbers go down because our police department have those particular resources. We were also happy that when 50 Cent came in, that he bought some additional cameras as well for the Human Harmony weekend, that was here. You want to ensure that when you walk outside your door, that's not something that you have to worry about. Of course, we have crime in the city, but you don't want it to be to that magnitude where you're listening to, it's 75 murders, it's this, or it's this. No, we wanted to make sure that we would curtail that. That was extremely important to me. The next thing were our streets, of course. And in 2019, we had money set aside for a number of street projects that needed to be done. And so now those projects are actually manifesting itself. So the construction that you see on Pines Road, or the construction that you see on David Rains, or even the construction that you see on 4th Street, all are a result of those dollars from Street Revenue Fund, also from the state of Louisiana. And because 4th Street, I would always get calls about it. It was like, it's a state highway. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to know fix 4th Street. That's what they want. And so those collaborative partnerships with our other legislators are very, very important. So we haven't even gotten to streets in the bond yet. Every bit of construction that you're seeing right now is from 2019 street special revenue.
What are other things that you kind of look out at right now and go, I want us to do more in this area, or like, this is a primary focus of mine?
Three things that are a primary focus of mine. Amazon is here. We have over 1,300 employees at Amazon, so the North Market corridor is very, very important to me. We have 17,000 plus cars that travel that area. And so we have over 1,300 employees, approximately making on an average $20 an hour. You leave there, you need to have places where you can eat. We also need to have homes. And so we need to market and build that area up. Again, from downtown into the Allendale area is another premise of mine. Allendale also needs a level of resources for a grocery store or some type of mini grocery store in that area. And so what I'm hoping is that with the building and the attraction of G Unit in that area, that it will spur that, but also at the point that it's not going to, that gentrification will not kick in, because we need to make sure that we protect those residents that are there as well. The third thing that I really, really look at, and I already talked about, is definitely having a grocery store too in the MLK area. Those are primary focuses for me. Downtown, the sprinklers, the splash pad downtown was essential for me, so that should be up and operable this summer. So I'm excited about that. Yes, I'm really excited about that.
And on the other side of that equation, like what I mean, I know you were very involved, or I've heard you talk about the 50 Cent Humor and Harmony. You've been very involved in a lot of things. What are some things that really make you feel like we're making significant progress, or we're headed in the right direction as a community, as a greater community?
What I'm happy about, what I see in this community is this splurging of small businesses. And I think that we need to move to a point where we're more supportive of our small businesses. I see, several restaurants that are opening up that are very spectacular in nature. I love when individuals send us invites for grand openings. That's what I see, and I'm proud of that for Shreveport. I think it's also a revitalization of community and what you want to see in this community. I'm grateful that, 50 Cent saw Shreveport through the lens of Orville Hall and others and say, hey, I want to do this, because then it puts Shreveport on the map. But I'm also proud of the fact of his investment of wanting to ensure that he works with the businesses that are present in this city. So when all of those things manifest, that is exciting for me, because what we're looking at is opportunity. But you also have businesses that are expanding, out on West 70 at the old GM plant. You have things that are going on at the port. That is good, because what we need is to enhance the quality of life for our residents here. Listen, the minimum wage here is $7.25. You're not going to be able to make it off of that, especially when, in order for you to have, a nice place to live, it's going to cost you about $1,300. I want, for us to be able to attract industry, but also at the same time that we need to train a workforce so they will be able to enhance the quality of life. I don't want our citizens to work and live in Shreveport in survival mode. I want them to be able to live here. I want them to be able to expand, because it doesn't make any sense if we have all of these things here and then you can't afford to go because you're trying to eat, or you're trying to buy prescription medicine, or whatever the case may be, that you can barely make it. So we have to constantly look at that fight and try to see which ways that we balance that out.
I love that. And I'll also just add, I commend you, all the council, the mayor's administration, for recognizing the opportunity with 50 Cent and being open to it, and to be amenable to exploring it and working to make it happen.
Yes. 50 is if you've never met him, he is very nice, very business minded, and yet he sees so much greatness in the city. And it is really threefold what he has. Is the investment in community, affordable housing, as well as the investment in our youth. So all of that is threefold. So I'm happy when he comes back and, he manifests film and production. Film and production is extremely important, because there are so many other layers, to that. That you're sitting here with your podcast, which is so important. But what I also love, just with what you're doing, showcasing our community and branding Shreveport in the right way is very, very important. We can either talk up our city or we can talk down. I don't care what city you go to, there are going to be some issues. But there is so much good in Shreveport that we need to recognize and that we need to celebrate.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, those were my set questions for you. I told you before we started. There's so many places we could go, and I know there's a lot and a lot you see that I'm not privy to or not aware of. Are there things that you feel are important that we should discuss, or that you want to share that I didn't come right out and ask you about?
Let me tell you, let's talk about Cross Lake a little bit, because Cross Lake is in my area as well. And, we experienced snowmageddon, and then we experienced floods. We've experienced hurricane force winds, and we're experiencing earthquakes. But Cross Lake was one that was a concern for the number of residents, inclusive of myself, that live in that area. So what I asked Representative Walters and Senator Jenkins if they would look at a study with the Corps of Engineers of dredging that lake. So there's probably so much silt at the bottom there that it takes less water, I believe, in order for it to reach that flood level, which is causing a problem. So we need to look at that, and that costs a lot of money, and that is going to take bipartisan support and a number of legislators that's going to have to get involved in that. Because even though Cross Lake extends all around the parish, it's still in my district. The other thing in reference to that is because we have experienced a level of flooding, I asked Representative Walters if she could or explore any type of infrastructure dollars that for those homes that have wooden piers that extend out into the water, that if it was some flood resistant materials that they could use, and if there were some type of incentives for homeowners to be able to do that where their cost is subsidized. I knew under President Biden that there were dollars that trickled down for infrastructure, and then a lot that was dealt with when you dealt with hurricane force winds, where we're experiencing that in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I want to make sure that if there are dollars there, that we receive that. I know that there have been concerns about our water. It's also a concern for us as well. And that is something that is ongoing, because when your water is not drinkable, or you are afraid to bathe in it or cook in it, that's a problem. And so I'm glad that the bond issue did pass for infrastructure so we can repair a lot of those old water lines. That's very, very necessary within the city of Shreveport. And that's something that's ongoing for us. And getting information from individuals who are experts to say, why are we dealing with manganese? What is actually causing it? I did have a geologist to come down to talk about the sporadic earthquakes that we're having in that area. And so I wanted to let residents know that that is on the city's YouTube page. So go back and watch that. But he assured us that, at this time, there's nothing that we needed to be alarmed about. But, when you start having them, it's a cause for concern.
Sure.
And so I just want people to be aware of, what it is that he's saying in that area. So it's always something that's going on in the city. Probably after we finish this, I'll think of something else. But we have just a number of things that we're paying attention to on our bond projects, that those things haven't started yet. And street repairs. There are a number of districts all throughout there that, have probably over $20+ million of street repairs in those districts. I just like for people to understand street repairs typically take 2 to 4 years. Because you go through the design, the implementation, the environmental study, and all of that. What I am concerned about are the dollars that have been allocated for concrete and things that we're building, like our substation, and the tariffs that may come into play with that. That's a concern of mine as well. And so as soon as we can move on those projects, I want to get that done, because I want the voters to be able to see what is done with their money. It's very important as well.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for your service. I thank you for your heart for this community. I thank you for all your advocacy. I know, because I've had some interaction with you, how fortunate we are to have you in our corner. And I don't need to tell you to keep fighting because I know you will. But so thank you for
You're
being
welcome.
with us.
Thank you for having me. I really
Absolutely.
enjoyed it.
Me too.
Oh, yes.
Always great to see you.
It's good to see you too.